"I found her," Rebecca Stone called out to the search team coordinator, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had delivered similar news in much more dangerous situations. 6-year-old Emma Martinez sat beside Rebecca in a small clearing 200 yards from Riverside Park's main playground, frightened but unharmed, clutching the emergency whistle that Rebecca had given her while conducting what appeared to be a routine search pattern with professional precision that impressed the responding officers. "She's scared but okay. No injuries, just cold and tired," Rebecca continued, wrapping Emma in an emergency blanket that she carried in her dog-walking backpack alongside. Other supplies that seemed unusually comprehensive for someone who walked neighborhood pets for a living. What the relieved parents and amazed police officers didn't know was that the woman who had found Emma in 30 minutes using systematic tracking techniques was Technical Sergeant Rebecca Stone, retired, U.S. Air Force Pararescue, who had spent 12 years conducting search and rescue operations in combat zones, wilderness areas, and disaster sites where finding lost personnel meant the difference between life and death. Rebecca Stone, 38 years old, had been operating Paws Trail's professional dog walking services in the suburban community of Riverside Heights for 4 years and 2 months, maintaining the same methodical attention to detail that had characterized her 12-year career as an Air Force pararescue specialist. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., she loaded her specially equipped vehicle with leashes, water, emergency supplies, and route maps that she used to provide exercise and care for the dogs of working families who needed reliable pet care services. The community knew Rebecca as the dog walker who could handle any breed, who somehow managed to exercise multiple dogs simultaneously while keeping them safe and well-behaved, and who provided updates to pet owners that demonstrated genuine care for the animals under her supervision. She had built a thriving business based on reliability, professionalism, and the peace of mind that came from trusting their pets to someone who treated animal care as a serious responsibility. What pet owners didn't notice was Rebecca's automatic route planning that included emergency access points, her systematic approach to animal behavior assessment, the way she organized her supplies with military precision that went far beyond typical pet care requirements. Her approach to dog walking was thorough and safety-focused in ways that suggested training beyond typical animal care experience. Rebecca had chosen professional dog walking specifically because it allowed her to remain connected to outdoor environments and animal companionship, while serving her community in ways that felt meaningful and peaceful after 12 years of high-stress rescue operations in combat zones and disaster areas. Her Air Force career had begun when she enlisted at 19, initially planning to work in communications or administration. But when she scored exceptionally high on physical fitness and psychological evaluations, recruiters had suggested she consider pararescue training, one of the military's most demanding specialties that combined wilderness survival, emergency medicine, and rescue operations under extreme conditions. Pararescue training was among the most difficult programs the Air Force offered. 2 years of intensive instruction that included everything from advanced trauma medicine to helicopter insertion techniques, parachute operations, and survival training in various environments. Rebecca had been one of only 3 women to complete the program successfully during her training cycle, and one of even fewer to serve operational tours in combat environments. Rebecca's deployments had included rescue operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, disaster response missions in Southeast Asia, and humanitarian operations throughout Africa and Central America. She had conducted searches for downed pilots, rescued civilians from natural disasters, and provided emergency medical care in situations where traditional rescue services couldn't operate. Over 4 operational tours, Rebecca had participated in more than 150 successful rescue operations, earning commendations for technical excellence and courage under fire. But the psychological toll of years spent searching for people in life-threatening situations, while knowing that rescue delays could mean death, had eventually become overwhelming. When Rebecca completed her military service, she had been offered positions with civilian rescue organizations, emergency management agencies, and private companies that would have used her pararescue expertise in lucrative consulting roles. But after years of emergency rescue work, Rebecca had chosen pet care because it allowed her to use outdoor skills and systematic thinking in contexts where the stakes were manageable rather than life-threatening. Riverside Heights was a family-oriented suburban community of approximately 8,000 residents, many of whom worked in nearby metropolitan areas, and depended on reliable pet care services to ensure their animals received proper exercise and attention during long workdays. Rebecca's business served families throughout the community, providing not just dog walking but pet sitting, behavioral training, and emergency pet care services. During her 4 years in Riverside Heights, Rebecca had developed strong relationships with both the pets under her care and their families, understanding animal needs, family schedules, and community dynamics in ways that allowed her to provide personalized service that went far beyond basic pet walking. Rebecca, said client Jennifer Park, whose golden retriever Max was one of Rebecca's regular charges, I don't know how you do it, but Max is always perfectly exercised and well-behaved when I get home from work. You seem to understand exactly what he needs. Every dog has different exercise requirements and behavioral patterns. Mrs. Park, I try to tailor my approach to what works best for each individual animal. What Jennifer didn't realize was that Rebecca's approach to animal care was based on the same systematic observation and individual assessment techniques she had used for search and rescue operations. She could read animal behavior, environmental conditions, and safety factors with skills that had been developed in much more complex and dangerous contexts. The day when Rebecca's background was revealed began with a community emergency that demonstrated how her pararescue training remained relevant even in civilian pet care work. At 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, 6-year-old Emma Martinez wandered away from Riverside Park's playground while her mother was distracted by a phone call from Emma's school about a schedule change. When Maria Martinez realized Emma was missing, she immediately began searching the playground area and calling Emma's name. Other parents joined the search, but after 20 minutes with no sign of Emma, someone called 911 to report a missing child. Riverside Heights police responded with multiple units, immediately implementing search protocols for missing children that included cordoning off the area, interviewing witnesses, and organizing systematic search patterns. The park bordered a wooded area that connected to a larger state forest, creating multiple directions that a lost child could have traveled. Rebecca was conducting her regular afternoon dog walks in the park area when she noticed the police activity and learned about the missing child situation. Her immediate reaction was to assess the search area using skills and methodologies that she had hoped never to use again in civilian life. Rebecca's pararescue training automatically activated. She began analyzing terrain features, potential travel routes, and environmental factors that would influence where a lost 6-year-old might go. Her assessment was based on child psychology, terrain analysis, and search probability theory that she had learned during military rescue training. Officer, Rebecca approached Search Coordinator Lieutenant David Chun. I'm a professional dog walker who works in this area daily. I'd like to volunteer to help with the search. Lieutenant Chun was organizing civilian volunteers to expand the search perimeter, but he noticed something different about Rebecca's approach to the situation. Ma'am, do you have any experience with search operations? Rebecca hesitated, the way she always did when people asked about her qualifications. Some training in wilderness navigation and emergency response. I know this area very well. Lieutenant Chin assigned Rebecca to search a wooded area northeast of the playground, assuming that her familiarity with local terrain would be helpful for expanding the search coverage. But Rebecca immediately began implementing search techniques that went far beyond what civilian volunteers typically employed. She studied the terrain for signs of passage, analyzed the most likely routes based on child behavior patterns, and systematically covered her assigned area using grid search methodology that she had learned during pararescue training. Rebecca also brought advantages that other searchers lacked. She was accompanied by 2 well-trained dogs who were accustomed to following her directions and could potentially detect human scent trails that might indicate Emma's direction of travel. Within 15 minutes of beginning her search, Rebecca had identified what appeared to be a child's footprint near a creek bed that ran to the wooded area. Her pararescue training had taught her to recognize and interpret tracking signs that most people would miss. Following the creek bed systematically, Rebecca found additional signs that suggested Emma had followed the watercourse, disturbed vegetation, small handprints on rocks where she might have steadied herself, and scuff marks that indicated someone small had slipped on muddy ground. Rebecca's search pattern was methodical and efficient, based on probability theory and terrain analysis that allowed her to predict where a lost child would most likely travel. Her training had taught her that lost children typically follow paths of least resistance, seek shelter when frightened, and are attracted to water sources. At 3:07 p.m., 37 minutes after Emma had been reported missing, Rebecca found her sitting in a small clearing beside the creek, crying but unharmed. Emma had followed the water course until she became tired and scared, then had sat down to wait for help. "Hi, Emma," Rebecca said gently, approaching slowly to avoid frightening the child further. "My name is Rebecca. Your mom is looking for you, and we're going to get you back to her right now." Rebecca's approach to Emma demonstrated the same calm professionalism she had used when conducting rescue operations in much more dangerous situations. She quickly assessed Emma for injuries, provided comfort and reassurance, and prepared to signal the search team that the child had been found safely. Rebecca activated the emergency whistle she carried as part of her standard equipment, sending the three-blast signal that indicated a successful find. She then used her radio to contact Lieutenant Chen with a precise location report and status update. "This is Rebecca Stone. I found Emma Martinez at coordinates that I'll mark with my location beacon. She appears unharmed but scared and cold, requesting immediate family and medical response to my location." Lieutenant Chun was impressed by Rebecca's professional communication and systematic approach to the rescue situation. "Ma'am, your search technique and communication protocols are exceptional. What kind of emergency response training do you have?" As search team members and Emma's parents converged on Rebecca's location, the conversation that followed revealed the extent of Rebecca's rescue background and her reasons for choosing pet care over careers that would more obviously use her pararescue expertise. "Lieutenant Chun, I'm a retired Air Force technical sergeant, pararescue specialist, 12 years conducting search and rescue operations." Lieutenant Chun understood immediately why Rebecca's search had been so efficient and professional. "Sergeant Stone, pararescue is one of the most elite rescue specialties in the military. Why are you working as a dog walker?" "Because I wanted to use outdoor skills and systematic thinking to help my community in peaceful ways rather than emergency situations." Maria Martinez, Emma's mother, approached Rebecca with tears of gratitude and amazement at how quickly her daughter had been found. "Rebecca, thank you for finding Emma so quickly. The police said you located her faster than they expected possible." "Mrs. Martinez, I'm just glad Emma is safe. She's a smart girl who stayed near water and didn't panic." "Rebecca, how did you know where to look?" "The police said you found her using some kind of professional search technique." The conversation that followed helped Rebecca explain her transition from military rescue work to civilian pet care and how her pararescue training had been applicable to the missing child emergency. "Mrs. Martinez, my military training included search and rescue operations. The same techniques that work for finding lost personnel in wilderness areas can be applied to finding lost children in suburban environments." The successful rescue of Emma Martinez had revealed Rebecca's background to her entire community, leading to opportunities she hadn't expected when she chose pet care as her post-military career. "Rebecca," said Riverside Heights Emergency Management Director Patricia Williams during a meeting the following week, "your successful search for Emma demonstrated capabilities that could be valuable for our community emergency response programs." Rebecca was initially reluctant to return to emergency response work, but the position offered a compromise between using her expertise and avoiding the constant pressure of life-threatening rescue operations. "MS. Williams, I appreciate the offer, but I chose pet care specifically to step away from emergency response work." "Rebecca, this wouldn't be full-time emergency response. We need someone to train civilian volunteers in basic search techniques and coordinate with professional rescue agencies when necessary. You could continue your pet care business while contributing your expertise to community safety." Rebecca accepted the part-time position as community search and rescue coordinator while maintaining her dog walking business. The combination allowed her to use her pararescue expertise to improve community emergency preparedness while maintaining the peaceful daily work that had been essential for her transition from military service. Rebecca's training programs for civilian search volunteers emphasized practical techniques for missing person searches, basic wilderness navigation, and coordination with professional emergency services that could improve response effectiveness during community emergencies. The goal Rebecca explained to volunteer trainees, is not to replace professional search and rescue teams, but to provide immediate response capability that can begin systematic searches while professional resources are being mobilized. Rebecca's work with community emergency preparedness led to her developing search protocols that were adopted by emergency management agencies throughout the region. Her programs trained civilian volunteers while improving coordination between different emergency response organizations. 6 months after the Emma Martinez rescue, Rebecca received recognition from both the National Association for Search and Rescue and the Air Force Rescue Association for developing civilian training programs that improve community emergency response capabilities. But the recognition that meant the most to Rebecca came from Emma Martinez herself, who had become one of Rebecca's regular companions during dog walks, learning about outdoor safety and animal care from someone who understood both wilderness survival and child development. Miss Rebecca, Emma said during one of their walks, "My mom says you're a hero because you found me when I was lost." Emma, you're a hero too because you stayed calm and made smart choices. You followed water, which made it easy to find you, and you stayed in one place when you got tired. Miss Rebecca, will you teach me how to not get lost again? Rebecca realized that Emma's request represented exactly the kind of meaningful work she had hoped to find after leaving military service, using her expertise to help her community, while building relationships based on trust and care rather than emergency response. A year after the missing child rescue, Rebecca had become Riverside Heights Community Safety Education Coordinator, responsible for teaching outdoor safety, emergency preparedness, and basic rescue techniques to families throughout the community. Her programs included child safety education, family emergency planning, and outdoor adventure skills that prepared community members for recreational activities while building emergency response capabilities. The key, Rebecca explained to parents during one of her safety education sessions, is teaching children to make good decisions in outdoor environments rather than just warning them about dangers. Kids who understand how to assess risks and respond appropriately are much safer than kids who are simply told to be afraid. 2 years after finding Emma Martinez, Rebecca continued operating her dog walking business while also serving as a recognized expert in community emergency preparedness and civilian search and rescue training. Her story was featured in military publications as an example of how specialized military training could be applied to civilian community service, inspiring other pararescue veterans to consider careers that use their expertise for peaceful community benefit. Today, Rebecca Stone continues working as a professional dog walker while also directing community safety education programs for Riverside Heights and surrounding communities. She still loads her vehicle every morning at 6:30 a.m., still provides reliable pet care for working families, and still treats animal welfare as a serious professional responsibility. But she also trains civilian search volunteers, coordinates with emergency management agencies, and teaches outdoor safety to families who want to enjoy recreational activities while being prepared for emergencies. The park where Rebecca found Emma Martinez now includes a small memorial garden with a plaque that reads, "In appreciation of those who dedicate their lives to finding the lost and protecting the vulnerable." Rebecca requested that the recognition honor all search and rescue professionals rather than individual achievement. Rebecca's story reminds us that military rescue expertise doesn't diminish when applied to civilian purposes. It transforms. That pararescue training can improve community safety just as effectively as it saves lives in combat zones. That the same systematic search techniques used to find downed pilots can be used to find lost children in suburban neighborhoods. The next time you see a professional dog walker, remember Rebecca Stone. Remember that they might have rescue experience gained in situations and places you can't imagine. Remember that they might have chosen pet care not because they lack other qualifications, but because they found meaningful ways to apply extraordinary skills to serve their community in peaceful contexts. Sometimes the most important rescues happen not in combat zones or disaster areas, but in local parks where former pararescue specialists choose to use their expertise to protect children and families in their own neighborhoods. Sometimes the greatest search and rescue expertise belongs to people walking dogs rather than conducting military operations, people who've chosen to apply rescue training to civilian community service, ensuring that the skills developed for finding lost personnel in dangerous places can be used to keep children safe in peaceful places. We need to recognize and appreciate the skilled rescue professionals among us who've chosen to serve quietly, especially those whose previous service required searching for people in dangerous situations, so that families can feel confident that help will be available if their loved ones became lost or endangered. Because true rescue expertise doesn't disappear when uniforms come off, it just finds new applications. And sometimes the most valuable search and rescue training involves not military operations, but community safety education and emergency preparedness that ensures the systematic precision developed for military rescue can be used to protect civilian families and enhance community security.